What's up, my fellow adult collector? Welcome to Civilian Collectibles. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the recently released WWE Ultimate Edition Wave 7 featuring The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Just in case you're unaware, the Ultimate Edition line usually does come in pairs, typically featuring one modern character and one old school character. These WWE Ultimate Edition figures are mostly sold online. The only physical store I've seen them at in my local area is Target. If this is your first time on my channel, hi, my name is Seville, and here I like to discuss action figures and other collectibles based on my favorite movies, TV shows, and video games. If you find this video enjoyable or informative, please give me a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell. As usual, I'm going to start this off with a nice, slow, up and down look at both the front and back of the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Just going by the first glance, this figure is pretty much everything it needs to be. To my knowledge, this is the second Fiend figure just behind the Elite, which I do have and will compare to later. Of course, Bray Wyatt himself has had many over the years featuring his different personas. One thing Mattel is always trying to get right, at least as much as they can without coming into legal problems, is the tattoos. The bare arms exposed here are no exception to that. Another thing I think Mattel does really well, especially on the Ultimate Editions, is capturing any unique body frames. They do tend to reuse a lot of parts on basics and elites when a character is based on an average sized person, but when it's a bigger guy or a different shaped guy like Bray Wyatt, Mark Henry, Big Show, people like that, they do go out of the way to make it as accurate as possible. While we're on the backside, here's another shot of some more tattoos, just so you can see how awesome those can look. The accuracy of the tattoos is honestly one of the things I'm always most impressed about. Now, I'm going to take a moment to compare the Ultimate, which is on the left, to the Elite, which is on the right. The overall body sculpt is pretty close, but the way they handle the articulation is much different. The Elite only has 21 points of articulation, but the Ultimate has 30, and that's with only counting one pair of arms. Some of the main differences is the torso getting a ball joint instead of just the front to back ab crunch. We also have double jointed elbows, butterfly joints in the shoulders, and toe joints as well. Now that I've swapped out the arms and put on the jacket, I do want to briefly mention that there is that prayer hand symbol on his chest that is not on the Elite. The one advantage that the Elite had over the Ultimate was including the lantern, but since I have them both, I can solve that problem. Another recently released Bray Wyatt figure is the Ringside Collectibles exclusive Firefly Funhouse version. That one actually included a background card featuring the Firefly Funhouse setup. It also included a few of the puppet characters, such as the Ramblin' Rabbit, Mercy the Buzzard, and Sister Abigail. The weirdest thing about that one is that the basic that I now have on the left is actually sculpted better. He actually looks like he's wearing a big red sweater, where the Elite was just clearly painted over a previously naked body. One last thing before I leave the Funhouse, it also included the boss puppet, which was basically Vince McMahon with devil horns. Anytime Bray Wyatt has been champion during his time as the Fiend, as Bray he just carried the regular belt, but for the Fiend he had his own belt. That belt is most certainly included in the Ultimate Edition package. That pretty much covers everything there is to cover for the Fiend, so now I'll move on to Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Just like I did with the Fiend, I'm going to start Hogan off with a good, slow, up and down look at both the front and back. Real quick, this is kind of off topic, but it's raining really hard outside my house right now, so if you hear any extra noise in the background, that's what it is. But it is kind of fitting considering that Hollywood Hogan has lightning all over his pants. This figure is another great example of Mattel taking a fairly unique body frame and making it pretty accurate. Hogan has had hundreds, if not thousands, of toys made of him over the years, and to me, this is the best one ever. Oddly enough, the first time I'd ever heard of Storm Collectibles was them doing their own interpretation of Hollywood Hogan. Due to the fact that they couldn't use the official NWO logos or anything associated with WWE at the time, I never did pull the trigger on those, so I can't really do a direct comparison of the two. From what I could tell in pictures and videos, they did the absolute best they could at the time, and had a similar price point in the beginning, but those prices have all skyrocketed since then. With Hogan now being back associated with WWE and therefore Mattel, that does make this the most accurate version of Hollywood Hulk Hogan ever made. Much like The Fiend, Hogan does get quite a few accessories, including 2 extra head sculpts. If I named the default head, it would be Happy Hogan, making this one Angry Hogan. And then the third one would be sort of neutral, concentrating Hogan. Along with the extra heads, there's also a pair of extra hands that are just closed fist. He also gets a cloth goods NWO shirt that does open down the front with a Velcro strip. That way you can do the classic tearing open the shirt pose. It even has all the slits cut in the back of it. Of course, you already saw the bandana earlier, but you didn't see the white sunglasses. Lastly, rounding out his entrance gear is the white feather boa. Then finally, when Hogan was champion, he'd always carry around the big gold belt with the black NWO letters spray painted onto it. Since Hogan actually could play a guitar in real life, he'd always treat the belt as if it was a guitar during his entrance. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, I don't have any other Hogan figures to compare to, so instead, I'll just bring out the rest of my NWO figures. This way, you can at least see where he stands as far as the scale goes. On the left, there's Kevin Nash. On the right, Scott Hall. On the far left, Macho Man. And on the far right, the Giant. As you can see, scale is another thing the Mattel WWE line does right more often than not. I haven't been able to cover the Ultimate Edition line as much as I would have liked, mainly due to time constraints or just getting the figures way later past release. So, I'm going to take a brief moment to display all the ones I've gotten so far, working my way backwards through the releases. Therefore, starting with the Ringside Collectibles exclusive Charlotte Flair. She was released alongside The Rock, but he was an Amazon exclusive, and I haven't been able to get my hands on him yet. Next up is John Cena and Becky Lynch. Unfortunately, Becky is the worst of the releases so far because her face sculpts just weren't all that accurate, and she had a problem with her boots where they were sculpted as both boots and socks at the same time. Then, at the very beginning of 2020, or maybe near the end of 2019, we got Shawn Michaels and Brock Lesnar. They were preceded by the Demon version of Finn Balor and the 2000 version of Triple H. Prior to that, Wave 2 consisted of Bret Hart and Shinsuke Nakamura. And finally, or firstly, depending on how you look at it, Wave 1 was Ronda Rousey and The Ultimate Warrior. I never got the Warrior myself, and now that I see all the aftermarket prices, I'm really kicking myself for that. With all that said though, it is now time to run the WWE Ultimate Edition Fiend and Hollywood Hulk Hogan through my guidelines for a complete and fair review. These are brand new sculpts that are highly detailed and incredibly accurate. They are in scale with the rest of the line, they do balance really well, and they have more than 25 points of articulation. I didn't have any quality control problems with mine, and they certainly come with plenty of accessories. So really, the primary issue with these figures is the accessibility, or lack thereof. Right now, they could be ordered from Ringside Collectibles, but that's it as far as I can tell. They are a smaller online store, so they do tend to charge a little more than MSRP on a lot of things, and once you add shipping, you're probably paying twice as much as you would if you could find them in Target. But in my Target, they haven't been restocked since Wave 3. Then, if you want The Rock or any of the older ones, it's even worse. Therefore, making my final score an 8 out of 10 star rating, meaning they're excellent and must-owns for all fans, but I will say that they're going to be hard to get if you don't have them already. Whether you're just an old school wrestling fan, or you're fairly new to it, or a long-time fan, these are worth adding to your collection.